So I'd like to welcome you to the Village Board meeting, Hanover Park, on Thursday, December 2nd, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. Christy, would you call the roll?
Trustee Gutierrez? Here. Trustee Porter?
Here.
Trustee Kemper?
Here.
Trustee Bancoli?
Here.
Very
Trustee
good.
Prigi?
Here.
Trustee Husani?
Here.
Everybody's here.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public hearing. A public hearing on the village tentative January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022 on the annual budget. We have a motion to open the public hearing on the village's tentative 2022 annual budget.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Summary of the tentative 2022 annual budget provided by the budget officer. And she is approaching the microphone. Ms. Penny Pincher.
Good evening. I'm pleased to present the summary of the proposed 2022 budget for consideration and passage on December 2nd, 2021. The public notice that called for this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on Friday, November 19, 2021. The recommended budget for 2022 totaled $92,885,034 in revenues and $97,807,088 in expenditures for all funds. The general fund balance, the village's main operating fund, is budgeted to receive $44,211,311 in revenues and $49,774,338 in expenditures. This balanced budget has an operating surplus of $436,973 and a $5,563,027 deficit due to the planned use of fund balance total $6 million, which will fund the fire station number 16 construction. Highlight for the 2022 budget as follows. The general fund and unassigned fund balance remain within the village fund balance policy and goals. Current level of services is maintained. Continuation of scheduling funding for the village pension funds in accordance with the actuarial recommendation. The 2022 budget anticipated a 0% property tax increase in the corporate and debt service levy. This is the 6th year that the village has not increased the overall levies. No increase for the water and sewer rate is proposed for 2022 budget. This will be the 7th year that the village has not increased the water and sewer rate. An increase for service charge from $12.50 to $18.75 a month. That's a $6.25 increase to fund the water main infrastructure maintenance. A 30 to 40 years program to replace a 50-year-old water main infrastructure, past the useful life of 50 years already. Capital spending plan, which include $2.9 million in street resurfacing and reconstruction, as well as $4.9 million in additional improvement and replacement of the village water and sewer infrastructure. The village continued to operate in a sound financial condition. This concludes the staff presentation portion of this evening's hearing. Available to any response for any questions.
Any questions for Remy on the budget for the coming year? Hearing none. Thank you, Remy. Motion to close the public hearing.
You did the, no one, this to be heard. No one wants to talk about the budget.
A bunch of people signed in
For the hearing.
for the year.
That's us, I think.
Okay.
No, I think we're
Nobody's here
good.
for the budget, correct?
Okay, very good. Motion to close the public hearing for the budget.
Second.
Thank you. Christie, call the roll, please.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Priegi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Very good. Now, we have a public hearing on a proposed property tax levy increase for the Village of Hanover Park, Special Service Area Number 5 for 2021, payable in 2022. Motion to open the public hearing on the village proposed property tax levy increase for Special Service Area Number 5 for 2021, payable in 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Do I need to take a roll call on that? I didn't think so. Okay, so,
All those in favor? All those in favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Explanation of,
Opposed?
any opposed? Echoing around the room. Explanation of the reasons for the property tax levy increase for Special Service Area Number 5 for 2021, payable in 2022 from $181,442.92 to $269,223. Jim Slater, would you like to,
No, it's Remy.
Remy.
it's Remy?
Remy will do the explanation.
Remy, you have the floor.
The special service taxation law requires that the president and board of trustees determines its probable special service area levies in order to flag those exceeding the 105% from the previous year. SSA number 5, which is the Greenbrook Tanglewood, is the only levy will be more than 105% of this last year levy. That is why we have this public hearing this evening. The public notice that's called for this hearing was published in the Daily Herald on Friday, November 19, 2021. The Greenbrook Tanglewood Homeowners Association submit a request to the village to levy the maximum tax rate permitted by our ordinance of 1.70%, which is equate to $357,000 for the 2021 levy collected in 2022. That's a 96.75% increase from the 2020 extended levy. During the budget workshop held on November 2nd, the board indicates that it would consider a reduced levy of $269,223, a 48.38% increase from the 2020 extended levy of $181,445.92. The following services for these levies are the $132,157 for the group services, $100,000 replacement for asphalt crack filler, $40,000 tree and shrub removal and replacement, $20,000 tree trimming for 3 years project. For the 2020 levy collected in 2021, the village levied the amount of $179,635, most of which went to pay the garbage collection services. If the board decide not to increase the levy by 48.38 and levy an increase similar to the other SSA, the village will levy $188,617, which is 5% increase over last year's levy.
Then I'm going to go to.
Since the village has complied with the SSA statute, which is the SSA Truth in Taxation, it could consider the request levy of any lesser levy amount. This concludes my presentation portion of the SSA number 5 hearing.
Thank you. Persons desiring to be heard with opportunity to present testimony and examine witnesses. So we have 2 mailed in,
2 online submissions.
2 online submissions, so.
Mr. Slater is here to start.
Jim Slater, let me hear from Jim Slater first, and then we'll go to the online submissions. Jim, we're not going to hold you to our 5-minute rule.
Okay,
The
appreciate that.
as president of that board for a number of years and representing the homeowners of the 505. They keep re-electing you. You must be doing a fine job.
Okay, thank you. You know, last night was the 6th time I've been reelected to a 2-year term, so I've been around for a while. And there are some people who like to see me gone, which is fine. That's the democratic process. And incidentally, I was the creator of the full levy resolution that the board, our board, has passed since at least 2011, urging this board to approve the full levy, raising the rate, maintaining the rate at 1.7% of the equalized assessed valuation to meet unmet common area needs. And past boards did that from 2011 through 2015. And suddenly in 2016, without any communication, they began not doing that and continued that pattern through 2019-20. And it looks like, based on what's on the agenda, intends to do that again tonight, which is fine. That's within your power, within your responsibility. And I guess a major point I want to make tonight is that in all the meetings I've attended where a tax rate increase has been protested, and I don't recall any protest between 2011 and 2015 when you were voting for a full levy at 1.7%, but we certainly had them the last 2 years because I'm coming back to the board every year on behalf of our board, urging you to focus on the unmet needs and not solely on the cost increase. Can't have both. You can't have lower pothole numbers if you continue to levy the way you're doing. So if you want higher pothole numbers, don't increase the levy. If you want lower numbers, increase the levy. That's simple. And that's one example. There are many other unmet common area needs. We've identified those beginning a year ago with a 5-year budget proposal to this board, which we asked for some response. Basically, we got no official response. It was resubmitted again this year, updated. We still don't have a response. So my goal tonight is to get everyone, including those of you in the audience who are not in favor of a tax increase, to begin to focus on the unmet needs and stop griping about the tax increase, because the two are incompatible. So you either want more potholes and to maintain the current levy, or not increase it very much, or you don't. So give that some thought. Because after all, we go through all these numbers I've given you, especially last year. Am I correct, Remy? Correct. That nobody wants to read. The facts are very clear. So we're either going to deal with the facts, and we'll be strong enough to deal with those facts and do what we need to do to meet the needs, or we won't. Those are the choices. To boil it down, those are the choices before this board. Those are the choices before our stakeholders who vote for their directors on their board. So I'm here representing 505 families, including the protesters, whether they want to be represented or not. It really, I fail to understand why when an elected board, which has, I think, a better finger on the pulse of their stakeholders than this board, because you're not in contact with them daily as we are, listening to their needs, unmet needs especially, and what are we doing about them? And yet, this board rejects or doesn't value our recommendations to your board regarding what those unmet needs are and how they are best paid for. I really fail to understand that.
Would you like to define some of those needs?
I will, as I go through the presentation.
Okay.
This is just for starters.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, let me take a moment to, and I know this is boring to some people, but my undergraduate major was in history, so bear with me. Let's take a brief look at the history of the SSA. I'm not sure how well informed your board members are. Some of them weren't around in 2005. How many were? Just the mayor? So this ordinance was passed, and I don't believe your legal counsel was around at that time, because the correspondence I saw had a different name on it. So this ordinance was passed on, according to my records, November 17th, 2005. And Sherry Craig, as the former village clerk, had quite a bit to do with getting this project started. I, as a licensed realtor, was showing properties in Greenbrook, Tanglewood, and the potholes got so bad that when we would drive up to see, make an appointment to see a unit that they might be interested in buying, they began to refuse to get out of my vehicle to go inside, on the premise that if the outside is this bad, we don't want to look at the inside. That's pretty much a red flag, I think, and it happened repeatedly. This is before I was ever involved. And then I bought some units starting 2009 and was asked to join the board, which I refused at one point, and gradually agreed to do so, and I'm still here. Never expected that to happen. So, well, if you don't want me here, you know you can vote against me. I heard the comment. So, the situation, and at that point, part
Could I
of,
ask that you just continue to direct your comments to the board and not respond to the audience?
that'd be fine.
Thank you.
But they are listening, and they need to hear what I have to say, too. So I'll try not to indicate that I'm really speaking to them. So at that time, that was one of the big issues, infrastructure issues, and it was very visible. And so the board at that time had started doing something about it piecemeal, because they didn't have the funds to do it all. And so the idea came along that maybe we need a special service area for Greenbrook Tanglewood. And my understanding is she showed a great deal of leadership to get that ball rolling. And so it was formed. And there was a protest, but there were not 51% of objectors, so it passed. And there are probably people in the audience that were around at that time that were on that side of the issue, and still are. That's fine. So, it was formed, and the purposes are pretty clear. Although they weren't clear to some members of your public works staff who are no longer here at that time, because they had a legal opinion from the former legal counsel that said that you can't use SSA funds for underground or for drainage, when clearly it's spelled out specifically in the ordinance that you can. So I had a meeting with the mayor, and I pointed that out, that we really need to get started on a long-range plan to deal with the infrastructure in the common areas. Because I was unaware of many of the infrastructure issues in the non-common areas, which we became aware of beginning 2018 and 19. And that's another discussion with another project, but it does interface with this one, because the funds that we spend from operating to repair and improve common areas is a drain of those funds and resources away from the other unmet needs. So it's that simple. And we can talk numbers and so forth and so on, but that's really the paradigm that we're facing. Too many unmet needs, too much deferred maintenance over a long period of years, and not enough money to effectively deal with them, because there wasn't a good plan. We do have a pretty good plan. It's not a complete plan, but it's a lot better than what I inherited. So we're moving on that front as well, as you know. And the mayor joined us with a signing of our loan for $7.75 million to deal with those other problems. Well, last Wednesday, I think it was. So that's underway, not as fast as we'd like to be going, but it's underway. But back to the common areas. So there was unanimous approval of this ordinance, maximum rate of 1.7%, taxable equalized assessed valuation, and here are the purposes of the ordinance. And those are the purposes for which we're addressing the board with a 5-year projected budget of unmet needs to be met. It fits within the definition of the purposes of the ordinance. There should be no confusion about that. So 1, refuse removal. And basically, during the last 4 years, during which time the board did not, approve the request of our board at full levy. That's basically how I got funded, which is good. It's a good program. Rather than 505 monthly bills being paid, or not paid, for refuse removal, it's consolidated. That's good for the refuse provider, it's good for the village, and it's good for our homeowners. And the positive thing about that is that since it's coming from their taxes, it's on their tax bill, it's deductible. How often does that happen with what some of us consider to be a utility type service? So there are positive things about that program, and it should be continued. Now, what's not so positive, that all these other unmet needs seem to be, they're not important. Until you drive down one of the streets and break your axle in your vehicle, then the pothole all of a sudden becomes important. So, also at that time, the multi-year resurfacing of the common areas was completed over a 5-year period from 2005 to 2010. So that was important. It was important to me as a realtor because I'm losing customers that didn't want to move into that community because of the street condition. Kind of embarrassing, really, to tell you the truth, but that's the way it was. So, during the years 2012 and 2015, there were major drainage and sidewalk replacement projects using SSA funds and a mix of association funds, but primarily from SSA. And we made a lot of headway. Getting rid of some of the deferred maintenance, which were posing safety issues. We had deflections of 4 inches in the sidewalks. Everybody knows that's a tripping hazard. We had flooding of the sidewalks in front of the units. Everybody knows that's a hazard, especially in the wintertime. We've corrected a lot of those problems, but we're not done yet. There's still more to be done. Okay, in addition to that, out of common funds, basically the reserve funds, which come from operating, we spent in 2018-19 approximately $260,000 of our money because the SSA funds weren't available because the full levy wasn't being approved, which drew money away from the other unmet needs in the non-common areas. I'm showing you the pattern that developed here. This is the intersection between the non-common funds or issues and the common area issues and how they're funded. It's still out of one big pot. It's just segmented and compartmentalized. But what you do over here affects what you can do or don't do over here. So we need to come to grips with that. Okay, so then along comes the lighting project. So we had wooden light poles surrounding the wiring that were rotting on top of concrete pillars with aluminum wiring in them. We had built-in safety problems from the beginning. So one day, one of the young people in the common area, we were playing football or soccer or something, took a break and leaned against the pole, and guess what happened to the box that surrounded the wiring? It fell on the ground, and sparks started shooting out of the aluminum wiring. That's how dangerous this was. I'm giving you an idea of how bad the decaying structures have been, and recognizing these units were built between 1972 and 76. You can do the math and see how old that is. I heard Remy say something about replacing something that was roughly 50 years old. We're approaching that on our infrastructure. It's long overdue, and it's hazardous to some degree. So we took care of that. What was a little bit disconcerting is that we had an agreement, at least with the village staff, through Howard Killian, that that would be funded out of SA funds. It never happened. And we had a meeting in, I think, this room with the 2 gentlemen at the center and some other folks about that, and there were some issues about commingling reserve funds, our funds, with SSA funds. For a variety of reasons, it didn't get done. So we pulled the cork and took over the project ourselves and spent $1 million. It says $1.2 million, but it came closer to $1.4 million with change orders out of our own common area fund, of our own common funds. Money that we could sorely need today to extend our fire breaks, our fire blocking in the eaves, which allow an oxygen tunnel in our dwellings and garages. And we found that out the hard way through a fire. And that's sitting there like a piece of dynamite waiting to explode in our face. So I'm trying to show you the intersection between the two. Where is the money coming from to do both of those? And we all have to deal with that. So I really need, as a board, you to understand, this is not just about $300-some thousand in a levy for SSA common area. It's much more than that. That's my point. So we completed that project. We borrowed $595,000 on a 5-year loan. We paid it off in 3 years. And we had a $1.2 million budget at the time. So we squeezed a lot of money out of that budget. And we deferred some other projects that we really didn't want to defer. That's how we got our modernized lighting system. And I think if you talk to the police department, the fire department, they'll say that was one of the best things we've done safety-wise in the last 10 years. And the next best thing we're going to do is replace all the balconies and fix those fire blocking oxygen-fed tunnels. Okay, so back to the mayor's question. Specific common area purposes / projects that the association's board of directors included in their annual approved levy resolution requests to the village are as follows. 1, lighting replacement project. We basically accomplished that, and no SSA funds were spent for it. 2, tree trimming. 3, tree replacement. These are not numbered properly. Next, stump removal. Asphalt repairs, including application of asphalt filler, crack filler. Railings. The railings have been installed twice. Ongoing refuse removal program. That continues, obviously. And restriping the parking spaces and sidewalk replacement. Additionally, in the 5-year SSA number 5 budget plan presented to the mayor and the staff on July 22nd of last year, and again this year, street signage, clubhouse off-street parking, and clubhouse renovation were added. These are all common area infrastructure elements that qualify for SSA funding. And there's a ton of unmet needs. How many of you have been in our clubhouse? 3 of you. I would invite everybody to come over. We'll give you a private tour, including restrooms. And then I think you'll get the point that we really need a renovation. Secondly, I heard part of the tape from the last meeting that I couldn't attend. Why do they need the clubhouse fixed up? Well, if you come over there and visit us, you'll see for yourself why. But other than that, it's not really just a clubhouse. It's more of an administrative headquarters building than it is a clubhouse. And it always has been. And it will continue to be. So I want you to know that in that clubhouse, and we call it the clubhouse because that's the term, we hold art meetings, quarterly art meetings, because they found that by using that facility, they have a better in-person attendance than they do anywhere else in the village. Is that correct? We make that available. I think it's a good deal for everybody. We've had summer enrichment classes in partnership with Keeneyville 20 when they were going through a life safety renovation of their schools, and the gyms were closed in the summertime in the classroom because they were doing major reconstruction. We did that for a couple summers. It was great. Teachers had a summer job, kids got a real good curriculum, and so on. And we've also held our neighborhood coalition meetings, which the mayor and his staff, many of them attend, they're members of that. It's a good program, and it's helped not only our association, but I think the greater Hanover Park community. Am I right, Mayor? Habitat has done a great job for all of us. And Mika Stoke, I see her here tonight. Thank you again. Let Dave Neary hear what I said. Sorry I made an exception. But I think that's important that we recognize their efforts on behalf of all of us. So, those are the kinds of unmet needs and purposes for which the funding was designed and for which much of it hasn't been used. We need to start using it, but we have to have it before we can use it. Enough on the history. Couple more points and I'll sit down. So, if we go and start looking at some of the numbers and start looking at the facts and not be making our statements based on emotion only about, gee, I don't want my tax bill to go up, and let's don't talk about whether I'm brushing aside unmet needs, and start doing both, I think we'll all be better with the end result. So on the 5-year budget, the first one I submitted, for last year, we had we're asking about purposes and, you know, what are the unmet needs. So we requested $342,000 total, broken down as follows: $150,000 for concrete and asphalt repair, replacement, and crack filler. Sound familiar? I just went over that as one of the purposes. $20,000 tree trimming, and this is mainly upper canopy because we take care of our landscaping contract up to 10 feet. So, and then $40,000 for tree and shrub removal and replacement. $15,000 for railing staining and repairs, $50,000 for street signage replacement, $67,000 for clubhouse renovation and additional parking. And I just want to comment on that. And this is not to be critical of past boards, but when the clubhouse was built in that period, 72 to 76, one has to ask the question, why didn't they also put in off-street parking? Most associations do that at that time. And that's not to be critical, that's just to raise the question. So if anybody knows anything about the parking situation in Greenbrook Tanglewood, they know it's a disaster. And anybody understands, you know, social patterns. We know a lot of people, a lot of wives didn't have, a lot of families didn't have a second income in the 70s. And they had one car. And all of a sudden, a lot of houses started going into the labor force. All of a sudden, there's 2 cars. And then the younger people out there, all of a sudden, Johnny and Susie came along. They became 16 and 17 and 18. And Dad and Mom didn't have enough money to send them to university. But thank God we had the community colleges. And all of a sudden, Johnny and Susie could work part-time at McDonald's, but they had to have a car to get to the community college. So now they had 3 or 4 cars. So it's not like people wanted to do that. It developed.
Excuse me, Trustee Bancole, did you want to say something?
Yes, in the interest of time and the other residents that may have comments during this public hearing, may I ask the HOA president to please provide his closing remarks?
Bernie?
Well, let me just say, when I was invited here, I was told I had up to an hour, and I said I wouldn't take up to an hour.
I think normally we do 5 minutes, but we understand there's a lot of other people.
I waived the 5 minutes this evening because there's a lot of history here. And
So,
But in the interest of time, are we able to ask for the HOA president's closing remarks so that we can also have time for the residents that have submitted questions and are also present at the meeting?
Right, so just 2 things. One, this is a public hearing. This isn't, you know, the town hall session. And so at a public hearing, the time limitations are generally not applied. people should be able to have a reasonable period of time to make their presentations. I don't know how long a reasonable period of time is. It's really up to the board to decide that, but I just wanted to point out that there's no 5-minute limitation. So, I mean, it's up to the board, but I think that a person should be able to give a presentation if they want. I assume that there may be, although I don't know, people who might want to ask him questions, because that's also part of the process. Anyone who speaks is subject to being questioned by the board, by the audience, and so on and so forth. So it's really up to the board as to what you think is a reasonable period of time, but there's no 5-minute limitation.
And I believe you're close to wrapping
Yeah,
up.
I am.
So why don't you wrap it up and then we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was last year's budget. So there was agreement in April this year that 3 projects would get done. They didn't get done. They're funded. The money's in the bank. It is now as of the second installment. Am I correct, Remy? So they didn't get done because your staff had more work than it had staff for 2 of the projects. The third one didn't get done because we had more work than we had staff to do. And the signage was held up because we wanted to do one more field inspection on the location of the new sign before it went to bid. And we weren't able to get that done. So both organizations had the same problem. I'm not being critical of anyone, I'm just telling you like it is. So that money is in the budget to be expended in calendar year 2021. Didn't get done. And the reason I bring this up is that there's some of the same items are, and some are not, in next year's budget. So next year's budget that's been submitted to you as part of the 5-year plan is going to have to be tweaked.
I can comment to that.
Yeah, Juliana?
So part of the budget amendment that will come to the board at the end of the year, how we have other projects that need to be carried over into 2022. Those 3 projects are part of that amendment. So as Mr. Slater said, that money is in the fund balance of the SSA 5. It will be expended next year as part of the projects that are going on next year. Any additional funding that is approved by the board as part of the levy will go towards the other projects that Mr. Slater has spoken to.
Okay, so in essence, that coupled with the fact that you may not be prepared to levy at full 1.75% means there won't be enough funds to do both years' budgets anyway. Probably not even enough funds to do 1 year's budget, okay? So that will cause some additional tweaking. So I'm just pointing that out, that be prepared for that, because it's a practicality issue. Okay, so moving on, just quickly here, not spending a lot of time because I know numbers are boring, but they are important. And a lot of this information I sent to you last year, and some of it has been updated. It's out on our website and has been for the last year for our stakeholders in the member section. Today, I had management move it over to the non-member section. So any board member, anyone in the audience can go onto our website, www.greenbrook-hoa.com, and dial into the SSA menu item and read all these documents. You also have paper copies at your desk. So there's no reason that people don't have the information. They do have it. So in looking at one of the items that was prepared last year, and it runs from fiscal year 2006 to 2018, did you know that the SSA revenues were $1.3 million? That's a considerable amount of money. How was it spent? Well, let's go to the next column. Total expenditures, $3.246 million. More was spent than came in because obviously there was a fund balance. That's a pretty good chunk of money. in our common areas in Tanglewood. I don't think most of our stakeholders know that. This has been out there on the website for a year. I want people to understand this. Your board has made an effort to provide funding. Yeah, am I being critical it's not enough? Yeah, I am. But I'm also thanking you for what you did approve. This is important. You prevented a lot of accidents by providing these funds to do the corrective work that we did. We got more to do. Okay, out of that, I think it's important for you to understand that waste removal took $1,113,375 out of that 3.1 million chunk. 34.3%, the ongoing program for which this was partially designed. I think that's great, because you'll get a better rate by doing the volume approach with your contracts than we would as an association letting out the bid for one contract. So there are many benefits of that program, and we should all be supportive of it. Non-building improvements, and these are terms that your staff uses in their reports, so don't ask me what's in them. They're not building improvements, they're non-building improvements. 2.1 million, 65.3%. And then legal services and a few other things. So $3,246,859 were expended between fiscal year 2006 and 2018. It needs to be updated for 2019 and 20. I haven't had the time to do it. So it's a greater number than I just expressed, because there's 2 more years to be added. Did you know this? I don't think so, because nobody took the time to tell you. Now I took the time to tell you. Okay. I think I got 2 more and I'm done. So, as we look at the tax rates, in 2015, the tax rate was full boat, 1.7%, maximum levy. That was the last year. Extended amount, $154,000. There's not a lot of money to deal with the unmet need volume that we have. Not, but it's something. And you did the best you could do. That's all you could levy. Well, you can levy more, but that's all you would get. Then it dropped to 1.5 the next year, but because the EAV went up, we got 4,000 more, 154,561. Then the next year it dropped another percent down to 1.4, and we still got 163,000. So this is a function of the EAV going up, but the tax rate's going down because the levy amount isn't going up that much. Then it dropped another percent the next year, 2018, to 1.3 and some change. And then in 2019, which I think was a quadrennial year, am I correct? It dropped to 0.08%, less than 1%. But the EAV went up from 2018 from about 12.5 million to 19.7 million. So that levy was spread over a greater EAV base. That's why the rate went down. And the other reason it went down is because you only levied 172,000. And we're needing in the neighborhood of 367,000 a year. So the gap is widening. That's the only point I wanted to make with that. And then I think I have one more and I'll sit down. Let's see, I might have more than one now. Did you know that the association governing documents provide for a cap on annual regular assessments in the amount of 3%? That's the albatross around our neck, the financial albatross around our neck that the developers passed on to us. So we don't have the luxury that some governing bodies have of raising their rate, whether it's sales tax or building construction fees or whatever. First of all, you have additional sources of revenue. We have primarily one, assessment dues. The next primary revenue source is SSA. And in terms of numbers, it pales in volume of funds generated, but every dollar counts. and we'll make really good use of every dollar. I promise you that. So, we're boxed in, we can't expand, we can't increase. It takes a supermajority vote to change the governing documents. They tried it about 15 years ago and haven't tried it since. It's not gonna pass. Nobody's gonna waste their time trying to do something that's impossible. So we have to squeeze operating and try to find other sources of revenue. This is the last remaining source that can be tapped, and we really need your help to help tap it more. Otherwise, the unmet need gap is gonna grow. So, I covered some of these other points here. And I think the final part of the need discussion is that here are the additional unmet needs, some of them. There are about 7 points. Ongoing concrete and asphalt repair work and asphalt crack filler. We requested $150,000 in FY21 budget, SSA budget, and $150,000 annually for each of the next 4 years. That's an ongoing project. It's not going to go away. Ongoing tree trimming, requested $20,000. This is going to be somewhat tempered because we did a lot of this work out of our operating fund in preparation for the facilities modification project. We had to cut back some trees because they were brushing the mansard roofs. We can't replace the mansard roofs. It's endangering the workers, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to go ahead and do that. So some of that will be tweaked in the budget for next year. Okay, ongoing shrub removal and replacement, requested $40,000. The idea is as we complete each phase of the FM project and the heavy equipment's off-site, we will move in and landscape that entire phase. So we have a more pleasing and safer turf, okay? That's the plan. So that's $40,000 a year for each of the next 5 years. We want it to come out of SSA funds because we don't have it over here in this other bucket. So if you want to keep looking at our common areas in their current condition and worse, don't approve more money. So that's simple. Okay, so develop plans and specifications for exterior. I already went over the street signage. We expect that to be done next year. And by the way, if you're, we offered this option to the village manager earlier, that if your staff, if you don't have the staff to do it, then let us do it. The other option I didn't offer that I'm going to throw out now is that you don't have the staff, hire more staff just to do the project and take it out of the SSA funds. Stop overburdening your staff with additional projects that they're not staffed to do. But not doing the projects when the funding's there and the commitment's been made, I'll just be frank with you, and I think if you were in my shoes, is totally unacceptable. No reason not to do it. Because they're not paying for it out of your money, it's coming out of our tax dollars. And if we took over the project, we would be paying those people to do the job, the architect, the contractor. What's the big deal? Let's get the job done. Think about it. Let's work out a plan that we can agree on so we get jobs done when we know we have the funding to do them. And let's stop having to delay. So, and then so on and so on. So other than that, the other unmet non-common needs, I think you all know about in the FM project. It's a $10 million project. It covers a lot of safety issues. It covers some aesthetic issues like roofing, mansard roofs, cedar shakes, et cetera. And we've had a lot of setbacks, including the pandemic. Okay, and I think probably, I went through that one. That's it.
I think you got it.
Thank you.
I wanted to give you the opportunity because there is a lot of history. You're very passionate about the common area as well as what you can do within the association with the balconies, with the, you know, the fire breaks. We've got to support you doing that. We have to find a way to do that. I think a key component with the SSA, and if I was a homeowner there, and I can deduct that in my taxes, you know, that would, I see that as a viable solution. So this board has been dealing with that. I wanted, you know, there's some new members of the board, and I wanted them to get a sense of what we've been dealing with for many, many years. Yeah, you mentioned my wife was instrumental in helping to get that SSA going. And it was because you were, not you personally, but the association was sliding backwards. And it's been turning around, and I appreciate your passion and your anxiety around trying to get that place squared away. It's been a slow process. When you say, you know, we got to take care of the roads and whatnot, yeah, that's $150K a year. You know, that doesn't go away. And so I think the village trying to assist in a large association like that with, I think, credible leadership around trying to meet the needs of the homeowners, I think that's all good. So we're going to move on. There's going to be people who have questions. We have two things that people mailed in to the clerk for comments. They couldn't be here this evening. So Christie, if you would read those.
Yep. Paul Kokosiv off of Carmel Drive wrote, I'm currently working for the Navy in Europe and obviously can't attend in person, so I'd like to provide my input via this forum. My residence is in the Greenbrook Tanglewood subdivision, and about 10 years ago, we had the SSA levied to support some major rehab projects to the subdivision. This SSA was instrumental in improving our property values by funding public safety and security projects. I understand the HOA board has been trying to fund the projects to likewise offset association operating funds by paying for big ticket projects, but the village hasn't approved of the SSA for many years. No one likes paying extra taxes, but due to the nature of the pending projects, I feel it's time for the village to once again approve this SSA for Greenbrook Tanglewood subdivision. So I respectfully request the board to consider this written communication in making your decision. Paul. And the other one comes from Anna Krakowska, and she lives off of Court Maria. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I'm reaching out to make sure that our property taxes for my area will not happen. You will be putting my family and other families in this area in harm's way. We are paying very high association dues for this area, and idea of association trying to raise the property tax is very scary. With the price of everything going up, having to pay association, it will put a lot of families in my area having to make the choice between putting food on their tables, feeding their children, paying the bills, or paying property taxes. Please do not allow this to happen. Thank you.
That's it?
Just those two. And then
Okay.
Miss Linda.
Linda
Nally?
Nally? Yep. Was she the only one?
Yes.
Okay.
I have lived in Tanglewood for over 16 years.
Linda, would you address the board, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've lived in Tanglewood for over 16 years, and regrettably, I have to say that our property value has decreased in spite of what everybody seems to think here. We've been slow to get a lot of these repairs done. The SSA funds, I don't see where they're really helping us. The drainage on my street has not improved with all that work that was done. The potholes, as Mr. Slater has said, are really getting bad in a lot of the streets, which I do not remember ever seeing before. And as Anna says, financially, this is really a burden on us. Can you tell me how much this would be annually, individually, as an increase?
It's gonna be $100 for net taxable EAB for like 27,000 EAB. That will be $100 extra for next year's.
We have that, and just 2 years ago, we had our property taxes increased by 50%. This has put a big burden on most of us. And to see this happen, and to see the little results that we get, I can't see why we should have this increase. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can anybody else ask a question? I didn't sign up, but
You can come up, just sign your name on the paper for me so I have it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
anyone can address the board. Anybody can ask anyone who addresses the board any questions.
Yeah, if you could just sign your first and last name so I
Is
have it.
that microphone on, Jared? You can address it from right there. You don't have to go to the podium.
Yep. Thank you, sir. What was your name?
Gary Risley.
Thank you, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
When and if you approve this, is this approval forever, or is this a 1 year?
1 year.
1 year. And then we have to do this again because Jim will be back and try to do it again?
Yes,
Yes?
sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
My name is Jesus Hernandez. I live in 1128 Core A. I live in for almost 20 years there. So I come from Chicago because I think this is a good neighborhood to run my family. But in the last year, I see, nothing better, like the people, like this guy say, he just increased the fees and the, and the assessment. So he says he's going to do this project and never done, like the balcony. They put in a 4x8 in my balcony to block in there. So the squirrels come in and broke my screen and made a mess over there. So he said because the pandemic, but I'm still working since the pandemic, and the project going to be do outside, not inside in my house. So I don't know what the reason he stopped this project. And about the parking, I didn't come on this is the first time I come in here, so I didn't come to the other hearing for when they gonna close the pool and making extra parking. Many times I apply for a parking lot, and I never have that. But the guy working on the landscaping, he got two parking lots since maybe 10 years ago. So what's this, So I'm not agreed, they increased now the tax and my property because, they increased the assessment last month. We pay over $200 per month for what? For nothing. My house need new paint, need a roof and the garage. The garage is still leaking. They never fix it. They say somebody, but they don't do a good job. They're still leaking. Now the ceiling coming down. What next? Whole garage come down, and I had to pay for that. So I not agree his job, like, in the board. He said he do a lot of things, he speak very nice, but the realistic, nothing to me. My property looks worse when I bought it, especially the landscaping. They don't clean the snow really good. I fall over a couple times already. But, I make exercise, so I know how to fall down. But if I break my knee, my elbow, something, who's going to support my family? So he said he's going to increase the assessment because he's going to increase the pay to the landscaping, but the landscaping don't do a good job. Why he not looking for another company? And he spent a lot of money, to pay a companies to come and, see what they can improve in there, but he don't do nothing. The project is stopping. He said that the money is in the bank, but on which account?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Sir.
Anyone else wish to? Yes, sir.
My name is Ken Keller. I've lived in Tanglewood roughly 30 years. Mr. Slater says he's been reelected 6 times. My personal opinion is that's because he carries a handful of proxies around with him. Because if it was an actual vote, he would not be there. Neighbors and I sat down one night and kind of calculated what we estimated the association brings in every month for their association fees. We don't see where any of that money is going. Landscaping is good for the people that he has working on it. They do a pretty good job. In the years I've been there, nothing's been done on the outside of the houses. Where's all that money? Nothing's been done to the garages. Where's all that money? Before the city took over the streets, where's all that money? He could have had those streets fixed a couple of times. Hasn't done it. All that money, I don't have a clue where it's going. He comes up with a budget every year, amazingly, penny to penny, what comes in, what goes out. We're not seeing it as homeowners. I had a real estate agent in a while back because I'm currently fixing up the inside of my house. She told me flat out, people are gonna look at the outside and walk away because the shingles are falling off our houses like snowflakes. Where's the money? Somebody needs to get him and find out where that money's going, because it ain't going where he says it is. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I had a couple of questions. I wanted to verify.
What was your name?
Oh, sorry, Janice.
Thanks.
I did sign the paper. So if the levy is approved, that money, where is it coming from? Are we also, all the city of Hanover Park paying for it? Or is it money that's being put in reserves? Where is that money going to come from?
So all that money that's levied only is taxed against the people who live in the territory of the special service area.
So
which
Hanover
is your
Park Green Book
subdivision,
would be
which is
paying
your
for that.
subdivision. So the people that live in your subdivision will be paying for those taxes.
Okay.
It
And
doesn't go anywhere else.
No,
Oh.
it's- she's asking who's paying. Oh,
so I guess, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask her, but I know she mentioned $100. Is that the amount is going to go up?
No, we
And-
need to clarify that a little bit because it's based on how much it's levied. So Remy, based on what Mr. Slater is proposing, how much would it be per person?
Per month. Your microphone's on.
If we're going to approve the request of a maximum of 1.7%, that will be an increase of $265.75 up to $400 based on the net tax taxable EAB of 27,000 up to 51,000.
And what does the EAV stand for?
That's the equalized assessed value of the property.
So based on the value of your property, it could be from $265.75 up to $400.
But that's the maximum.
That's at the maximum 1.7.
And that's, let's say the maximum 465. Is that 465 added to the annual total amount?
yes.
Right,
Total
but
amount.
the one that we're proposing, or the one that the board is suggesting, is just the
Well, why don't you say how much the
48%.
levy is? In other words, I think you need to say
The
how
amount that is,
much the levy would be, the 200 and so many thousand.
the levy will be 269,223.
So at that amount of levy, what would be the tax on an average home there?
That will be an extra $100 up to $200 for a taxable equalized asset value of 27,000 up to 51,000 equalized assessed value of a property.
So, for example, if I pay $1,500, it can be basically roughly $2,000
It
for
will
the year.
be 1,600. For example, for your, so this is only, you're only talking about the special service area, not the total property tax that you receive twice a year. We're only talking about the line item of special service area. For example, on that line item, this year, you paid $200 based on the proposed increase. Next year, instead of paying $200, now you're going to end up paying $300 instead of $200 because of the increase in the tax levy that
And it's
you guys
just a
proposing.
special item. But what
Just
about
on
the
the special-
465 you mentioned? What about the 465 that you mentioned earlier?
That's based on the equalized assessed value of your property. If your property is more than 50,000 value, then it's going to be an extra 200 because this is based on the value.
Okay.
Minus your exemption for your residential exemption, and also if you're a senior or a disability exemption, the net taxable value is multiplied by what the rate will be.
I think, to clarify, I think that Remy started out with what the association had requested, and the board did not set the public hearing today based on what the association requested. They cut it in half, and so the public hearing today is on half of the request of the association. So the second set of numbers is what applies today if the levy is passed by the board.
Wait a minute, I don't think it's half of what they requested. How much did you request?
They asked.
They request,
No, I know, but in dollars and cents.
they requested based on the equalized assessed value, it's $357,000. That's equivalent to 1.7%.
And it's not half of that we're talking about.
What we did to calculate where we got the numbers that we presented right now is based on 357,000 minus the 2020 extended levy of 181,229. You deduct those two, you're gonna get to 176. 50% of that 176 will be $87,000. We add that $87,000 to 181, that's where we come up with 269.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, so just layman's terms, Remy, with what we're proposing, with what we're talking about, right, Juliana, not what the HOA asked, it would be about $100 extra?
$100 extra for the 27,000 net taxable EAB of
That's
property.
what we proposed, because we didn't want to do the 1.7%.
Yes.
And the $100 extra would be $100 more than they would have paid last year?
Yes. This year, the rate on the tax rate, if they look up their tax, property tax, is 0.88%. But if we approve this levy, next year, instead of paying 0.88%, they're gonna end up paying 1.28%.
I just have a couple more things. So I thank you for clarifying that. The other thing, I've been at Green Brook for 13 years, and I know, I don't remember the guy's name that said he was there for 20 years, and his roof and his garage and falling. I've also had the same issue. I know when I first moved in, and during the wintertime, I called the association and was like, hey, the parking lots are glazed over. They do not do the parking lots, which is a common area. And I asked, so my front of the house is here, and I have to go around like this to the parking, like to my car. And I asked the association, hey, when are you guys in salt? And she said, well, we don't salt that area, even though it's considered a common area. And I said, well, if someone falls, they're gonna sue. And her response was, well, if they sue, you're gonna be part of the suit because you're part of Green Brook. That was the response I was given. And we pay association fees every year. And last year, we got a little green bucket with salt for the whole winter. And I mean, my husband has fallen out there before. I mean, I don't understand why it's a common area and there's literally ice out there. So what I have to do is come out through the back, which I can't lock from the outside, which leaves my house exposed, or I risk just walking around and hoping I don't fall. So, I mean, honestly, I also, for the amount of money we pay, I don't see very much being done. I've been there for a long time. The only thing I can admit is when I first came, the police have done a better job coming out to the area because there was a lot of fights. And honestly, if I knew the area when I came, I would have never bought the house. It's not a place that I want to raise my kids. I have 2 daughters. There's fights and there's just, smoking, there's drugs, there's a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, if I knew the area, I would have never bought the place. And again, for the amount of money that's being put for association, I know some people, I know there's a percentage of people that don't pay, but I pay every month. And I don't see where that money is going at all. I don't agree to want to pay more money to raise taxes when the money I'm already spending, I don't see where it's going.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name's Rosemary Risley. I live at 5577 Court G. One of the things that we've noticed that we know, we haven't been getting maintenance done every year. You own a car, you rotate your tires, you get your oil changed. That's part of the reason that this money is being requested, is because there's been no maintenance done for over 5 years. We've been promised we were gonna get the new roofs, we were gonna get new Mansford roofs, we were gonna get new siding. We haven't gotten any of that. And our association fees, we're only getting landscaping and garbage and snow removal. We no longer have a pool. That was one of our amenities that was taken away. That was a $60,000 a year cost. $60,000 for the past 5 years, where's the money? We also have been declined 2 years in a row for homeowners insurance because they don't want to cover us because of the roof, the way it looks. They've been out and looked. The property manager, Donna, did write a letter. I think she might have even spoke to our insurance company, so they did cover us because the work was promised to be done in March. It's now December, it never got done. This has been a pattern that's been going on. And we're paying higher insurance than we were because the work has not been done. So for 2 years, we're paying more insurance than what we would if the things were taken care of. It might have been 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we all had a piece of paper, scotch tape to our garage doors that seal coating was going to be done. And Mr. Slater said, no, we're not doing it. We're not doing that maintenance. My husband spoke to that. We have a son that's in the business, and you have to do maintenance every year. You have to keep up with it. So the conditions of our streets are because there's been nothing done. So now we're going to have to pay a higher tax to get all this work done because it hasn't been done. I realize that it's something that's necessary. I think for a lot of people, we're still coming out of COVID. Look at our gas prices now, our grocery prices. I think it's going to be a burden for additional money that our association individuals are going to have to pay. And I'd invite any of you to come and walk with us, some of us. Walk through the property with us. Have you been there? Have you looked at the deplorable condition that it's in?
Yes.
My husband spent 4 hours up on a ladder scraping 4 inches of moss off our roof to try to help it make it look a little bit more presentable. And we're still waiting. It's now December. Oh, well, we'll start up again in March. Well, we've heard that for years. We want our property to look nice. I think, you know, if you look at the crime, we've had shootings, we've had suicides, there's drug dealings all the time. We appreciate the police department. They have been more proactive, but it's not a really good area. I can understand. I'm retired now. My children, of course, are grown, but a lot of younger families are coming in. They don't want their little kids and their children to be out because it's not safe. So at this point, I don't think that a raise in SSA is something that we need. If our work was done, the project that's been discussed now is going to be the roofs, the gutters and the eaves. Well, what happens to the siding and the shingles that were supposed to be done? The part of our garage, my husband's had a caulk it. There's no maintenance. There's nothing that's been done. And that's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? You've been before us before. You've been here before?
I've been here before. I haven't spoken before. My name is Joe Meager. I live at 5656 Santa Cruz. And yeah, I crunched the numbers on my property taxes. At full 1.7, it would raise my property tax about $300. So you're saying it'll be about half of that that you guys going, so about $150. Yeah, another thing about last person here was talking about her insurance carrier wanting to drop her. I have a neighbor that had the same problem. She'd been with a name brand insurance carrier for many years, and they come out to inspect the property and saw the condition of the roof, and they dropped her. And she actually, her mortgage company got insurance for her, and she's paying like a ridiculous amount for that. You know, and it's because of the lack of maintenance. I don't know, I guess that's all I got. Thanks.
So are you in favor, sir? No, sir. Are you in favor of the levy, or?
I don't know.
Oh.
just, a lot of these projects, some concrete work, I think has been subpar, you know, it's been underwater, pour new concrete, still underwater. I just don't see a whole lot of oversight over these, contractors, you know, and the work that they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Denise Ebenstein. I'm actually a property owner, not a resident anymore. I moved out of the subdivision because I couldn't sell my house. The value of the properties there has not gone up, so I'm forced to rent it out. But in the same token, it's hard to rent property when the association isn't doing their part in upkeeping it. They ask for more money every year, more money every year. I've been with the village since we put the SSA in place. It's never gone away. We were told when it was put in that it would be a maximum of 5 years. It's been, 15 years now that we've had it? More money, more money, more money. Like they said too, our taxes went up 50% 2 years ago. How do you get your tenants to cover that cost? You can't, you're in the middle of a lease. So I was forced to try and figure out where that money comes from. Now we want to raise it even more. Like we just said, we're in COVID. People are losing their jobs. Nobody's pay is increasing. I pay more money at the grocery store than I ever have in my life. And now we want more tax money to do stuff that isn't going to get done. He wants money for the clubhouse. The clubhouse, who uses it? Why do we need a clubhouse? I have an association where I live now. We don't have a clubhouse. They hold meetings in the public Park District building. You rent a room for a couple hours to have your meetings instead of paying what it costs to upkeep a clubhouse so we can have our association management company have a representative, have an office there. They have their own office buildings. We pay them for that. And to ask for more money to renovate a clubhouse, we should just tear it down. We don't need it. We're not making money off of it. And then to ask for money to do common areas, that's what the association's for. We pay over $200 a month for the same things that we've been paying for years. Although we did used to have 2 pools when I moved in. First one got closed down, and then the next one. The association fee never went down. They found more ways to spend more money. I think we need to figure out ways to work with the money that we have rather than expecting the homeowners to come up with money. My pay isn't increasing another $100 a year, or the 3% that our association fee just went up. So I think at this time of life right now where everybody's struggling to keep by, it's not a good time to ask for more money from us.
Thank you.
May I ask you, did you vote on this increase as a own?
No, I did not. I voted against it.
But you did vote?
Oh, absolutely.
You did participate in the vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Thank you.
I still own the house and I'm still trying to make it work, but this isn't the way.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Appreciate you all coming out this evening. Mr. Slater, did you want to respond to, or you've had enough?
I really like to.
Pardon me?
I really like to respond to a couple of things.
Okay.
I really don't want to, but I feel the need to. Let me rephrase that. I don't know if you heard that, but I really don't want to respond, but I feel a need to. You know, as elected officials, we all have to have tough skins to endure without fighting fire with fire tactics when you're personally attacked. And that's what I saw here today from a couple people. I think they're all good people, hardworking people. They mean well. It's just that some of them don't have the facts. And they misrepresented a lot tonight. So I just want to comment on a couple areas. First of all, in terms of doing the garage roofs, the one lady, whom I respect, she's a very intelligent lady, should know that on May 4th of this year, we signed approximately a $500,000 project to replace 70 roofs in the complex. 3 buildings in Phase 5, which were done because they're steep shingled roofs, and the supplies came in. The supplies for the flat roofs for 6 buildings in Phases 1 to 4 just came in November 15th. So her roof is slated to be replaced.
Address this, please.
I want her to understand that. that whole row will be replaced. And it will replace this winter because there's a new technology to be able to put those flat roofs on in bad weather. That's just a matter of not being up to date, not asking the right questions. But to go off and say, we heard this is gonna happen, and where's the money going, and you're not doing anything, we are doing a lot.
What percentage of the roofs does that 70 represent? You say you
Well,
got
divided by 505 units.
The 505
And
units.
we periodically, every year, we're doing about 250,000 a year because we can't afford anymore. We got other unmet needs. So we have a long-range plan. We have a 10-year preventive maintenance plan on the roofs. So to say that nothing's getting done is sheer nonsense. A lot's getting done that people don't see. How often do they go on the roofs? When they know there's a problem is when the roof leaks. That's the legitimate statement to make, that it needs maintenance, obviously.
Making an exception for COVID, how many of those roofs were replaced, let's say in 2018, 2019?
I don't know without looking at the long-range plan.
Were there roofs that were replaced in 2018, 2019? Because it
I
seems
know,
to me
I
that
know,
the
I know we
residents
did
are
about
saying
4 years in
that
a
this looks
row.
like
but
a long-term.
I can tell you that we didn't replace any last year. It got deferred.
Well, COVID, I
So,
understand.
so we doubled up this year. So we're playing catch-up against our plan. Okay? And then we got caught with a supply chain problem, except 22 roofs got replaced with the shingles because the supplies were available. But the flat roofs, 6 buildings, which represents the balance of that 70, didn't get done yet. They will get done. And all you have to do is call the property manager and ask, when will my roof be replaced? And she'll give you the answer. I don't understand why they're bringing those problems to you. They can be solved at the site. The other thing, the one gentleman really bothered me, and he's an ex-Marine, and I appreciate his service to the nation. I know some of you are. I know the mayor and I are from the Navy, and some of you others may be vets. I appreciate your service. But I don't appreciate you coming to the Board of Trustees and giving them fictional
I'm sorry,
facts.
excuse me. And we're supposed to be addressing the board. And
I am.
I feel like we're getting out of topic here, and so in the interest of time, it being 8:23, if we can just move on. I don't know if any of my fellow board members are
Move on.
moving.
But all I want to say,
Yes, I agree with Trustee Gutierrez. In the interest of time, could we please move on? And could Mr. Slater please provide his closing comments? Thank you.
Can I ask you, what was
Mayor,
the,
pardon me, let me get direction from the mayor. I'm getting direction from a lot of people. I don't know who they are.
Well, I think you just responded to a couple of things. I wanted to give you that opportunity. You took it. The board has some questions, and I'd like them to ask those
Excellent.
questions, okay? So we'll move in that direction. Thank you. Herb?
when the association voted to approve this request, what was the vote, and how many of those voters that participated in that are owner-occupied owners, you know?
Well,
or those properties are owner-occupied?
That speaker misrepresented the situation. This is representative democracy at work. The voters did not directly vote on this. They voted for elected officials, and the board members voted on it, and it was a unanimous vote of the board. We'd have to check the minutes to see if all 5 members were there, or 3, which is a quorum, but it was a unanimous vote based on them being elected officials and empowered to make that decision on their behalf. So there are a lot of...
Was there a town hall or some type of gathering where the residents and those others were able to voice their opinions, just like we're doing here?
At every board...
Was there given
yes.
some opportunity to do that?
Yes, at every board meeting, we have an open forum. They can come in and address any topic that's related to the association.
Okay,
They didn't do that.
okay.
I have a quick question. Thank you, Mr. Slater. And I understand that, you know, that we do want to have places that are safe and beautiful, that really represent our community. But I also know that an SSA is not going to solve all those problems. Has there been, I looked at all these documents, and thank you for this. has there ever been an audit of these financials?
We have-
Because I heard what a lot of people were saying, and I've heard it on the streets when I walked Inglewood and I speak to people. So, and is that available on the website? The audit?
In part one, your first question is, has there been an audit? Yes, we have an independent audit every year.
And is it available online or?
Yes, it is
on the-
online,
on the
except this
Tanglewood?
year isn't final yet.
Okay.
For the year ending September 30th isn't final, it's in draft form, it's not on the website. As
Okay.
soon as it's in final form, it will be there.
Okay.
So
And
you
I
go
do-
back, there's at least 5 years of audits on the website. If
Perfect,
you want
thank
more
you.
than that, we can provide it.
No, that's
Okay.
perfect, thank you.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Any other board member question? Well,
Any members?
Mr. Slater, I,
Jasmine
Somebody
has
else?
How many,
Yes.
how many people are on the board,
5.
and how many of them are, reside there?
None,
Huh?
none.
Do you live there, sir?
I just answered the question.
No,
I'm on
you
the
don't live
board,
there
and I
either?
don't live there. None.
Okay.
None of the
Okay.
5 members
None of
live
the
there.
5 live
And
there.
They're
have
all-
the roofs
they're
of-
homeowners.
Of your, has the roof on your building been replaced?
Not recently, one of them. Some time ago, one of them was replaced based on the plan. If
So-
you're getting at how they selected, I can answer that question. Is that part of your question?
Sure.
Okay, because I'm getting inference that maybe there's some partiality showing about who gets their roof replaced. There is none. So what happens is we commissioned an architect in 2013 to do a field survey of every roof and bring a plan together which said, these roofs were replaced this year, and in 15 to 20 years, they're gonna need to be replaced again. Most businesses, school districts and so forth, have a sinking fund that they set aside money, so when the 15 years come up, the money's there to deal with the problem. We don't do that. Most associations don't do that. So we began to put together a comprehensive roofing plan. And then on top of that, we rolled in the last year a preventive maintenance plan. So when we replace a roof and spend thousands of dollars to do that, we want to extend the life beyond 15 to 20 years by doing preventive maintenance every year. We're still playing catch up, but that's the plan. So the plan details which roofs are in the worst condition, and we start from the top and go down. And every year it's adjusted, because maybe another roof that wasn't in the worst condition this year is in worse condition than those on the top of the list. So it's based on the condition of the roof, not whether you live in an association, if you're white or black, or anything else. It's based on the condition of the roof.
Thank you, Mr. Slater. I want to give Yasmin,
pardon me?
Mr. Mayor, Yasmin, I think, has a
And I
comment.
have another question.
And so
Okay,
does Mr.
Yasmin?
Thank you. And again, thank you, Mr. Slater, for the background information that you provided on this matter. I do just want to make a comment and then just ask a question. You stated before that it was unclear to you as to why some of the residents were voicing some of their concerns here tonight, and you didn't feel that it was appropriate. I just want to make it very clear that I disagree with that statement. To anyone that is sitting in our village hall tonight, you have a right to voice any concerns that you might be having to your village board at any point in time. It's quite literally why we are here. The board is here to serve you, to listen to your concerns, to address your needs, your wants, and to respond accordingly. I just wanted to make that very clear.
Thank you.
I also have, I'm not finished.
You had a
Also
question?
wanted to say that I have walked Catalina Drive many times, and it's also why I called for Catalina Drive to maybe be placed higher on the list when we thought about street restoration projects. And so I do know that is, I believe, something that our Public Works Department has on their list. We have a really great Public Works Department. And my last statement and also question, Mr. Slater stated before that, or I guess made a reference in regards to the potholes and how they are essentially correlated between the SSA and how often they are filled. And I don't know if TJ is in the room, but I was wondering if he could answer if, excuse me, if the potholes and how often they are filled or how often that issue is addressed is directly correlated to the SSA and if a property tax levy increase occurs tonight.
Maybe can you restate that? I
Can you
did
restate
not
that,
understand.
Trustee Bancole?
Yeah, so, and sorry, I don't know how loud this is. I'm trying to speak loudly into the phone. So Mr. Slater earlier in this evening stated that, you know, if we need this, the SSA number 5 needs this increase in order to have potholes filled. I'm just want to make I guess, provide clarification to the board and to those that are in the room as to whether or not there's a distinct correlation between the tax levy and whether or not their potholes will be filled.
Is the tax levy include that pothole?
Well, no, yeah. There's a clarification I'd have to make first, is that there's the public street, which would be handled by the public funds. That would not necessarily be a function of the SSA or the HOA. There would be, and that could be what they were referencing, is that they were referencing the roadway. They could also be referencing the alleyways or the parking areas, which would be more easily defined as common areas that would be covered under the SSA. And generally speaking, we would rely on the prioritization from the HOA as to how the SSA funds were administered. So we kind of let them prioritize their projects, and we take that into account.
So essentially for all potholes found within that SSA.
I thought they gave the
Not
village a budget.
on the common areas, but not on the roadways. The roadways are different.
Catalina is
So
the
the road
roadway.
hitting Catalina?
And Tiburon Circle.
Yeah, there are, Catalina, for example, would be one that would be a public roadway. And it is scheduled for resurfacing next year as part of the grant.
Great.
There's someone
Thank you very much.
wants to make a comment. Mr. Mayor?
That concludes my comments.
We have a resident coming to address us.
I have a question. You talk about Catalina. Catalina, I thought, was the village street.
It
We're
is.
concerned to our individual streets in the subdivision.
Correct.
That's the ones that we have the bad potholes and they're not getting repaired.
Yeah, and that would be common area, which they look to the
Right,
SSA
and
to
it's not,
cover.
and it's not getting fixed, it's
I
getting
mean,
worse.
I thought that a budget was presented to the village concerning what they were going to repair.
It
Does it
was.
include filling the potholes?
It was.
Yeah, I mean, that's the question, right?
And when I addressed that earlier, that work
Right, which
didn't get
Mr.
done
Slater
this
did
summer,
address
but
the
it will be
potholes.
scheduled
But
next
he
year.
also said the potholes were not fixed this year. We did not see any of the funds go towards any potholes.
They didn't get fixed, right.
They're just getting worse.
Oh, you have to come up.
Can you come up
You
to
have to come
the,
up. And please, when you're done, you have to sign in. I need your name and first and last name, thank you. Just on that top line is fine.
So what Mr. Slater is referring to is deferred maintenance. And that's where, that's where the problem.
Tiburon Court, 5716 Tiburon Court, that's part of the association of the city. Yes.
No, that's association.
That's
That's a
association?
common drive all the way out to Tiburon Circle. Tiburon Circle is a public street.
So
Tiburon Courts-
between, Catalina is the big hole between Catalina and Tiburon. Who's gonna fix that?
Oh, well, we talked about this last week, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure if we got the photograph, and I'm not sure if the pothole is on the common drive or on
That's what I wanna
Tiburon
know.
Circle.
'Cause it's
Did
a
you
big
find
one.
out?
It's not the only one. I'm talking about street, Tiburon. Okay, the association and the Catalina. But between Catalina and Tiburon, It's a big pothole that he knows. It's a horrible.
It's actually Tiburon.
It's on Tiburon. So that's on the common area. It's a big pothole adjacent to Tiburon Circle. So when you come off of Tiburon Circle, which is a public street, you immediately hit a pothole on the common drive. It needs to be fixed. That's only one of many. You go
Okay, I
down
got another
Tiburon near your
question.
property, adjacent to the concrete center drive we put in, there's a whole strip of asphalt there that has multiple potholes.
A question, Mr. Saylor, because you know where I live. All behind by the bridge, who belongs that clean that area? Association or the city?
Well, the Forest Preserve owns the bank. We mow up to the edge. Not quite up to the
Because
edge.
actually, the summer is the worst, garbage all over. And people go drop everything. And one question that I have, and I doubt it, you guys gonna raise the taxes, but how is possible you're gonna raise in a subdivision? It looks like ghetto. It looks horrible. Okay, I understand the association has to fix all the stuff. Fine, but how you guys gonna raise the taxes when it's not presentable by the wherever live? Or another question, is a lot of people Section 8, and is the owners has to pay the taxes? Or is that why you raising the taxes because there's a lot of people involved in Section 8? The government pay.
Well, the village does not raise the
No.
taxes.
Who raises the taxes?
You've got how many taxing bodies on your tax bill?
And this is only Tanglewood, or all the area around Greenbrook, or only Tanglewood?
And I believe that Section 8 are mostly renters.
Yeah, rentals.
They're not owners.
I know the owners gonna pay the taxes.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, it's a lot of Section A, so the rentals, they don't care. They pay the taxes, but they don't care because the government support to pay that residence.
Good question.
Well, it's a good question because it's a lot of, and I'm not against the Section 8, because when I live in Florida, I rent a Section 8, one person, it was very, very honest. But right now, where I live, the past years is horrible, because I'm living since 1995, no, 99. And I moved from Chicago because I thought my kids gonna be raised better than Chicago City. And 3 years later, I found it was horrible, but then I stopped. Okay, my kids grown out, but now my grandkids, I'm afraid to go out. And that's why we pay a lot of taxes to live in a place like this, that the kids don't go out because something's gonna happen. And Mr. Saylor know how it was in 2010. That's horrible, but that was the past. Now it looks better, but now, and pretty soon I move out, but I feel bad because this association or the neighborhood, it looks horrible. Outside, inside is our responsible, but the outside, and you guys gonna raise taxes in places like this? First of all, fix the association to get better look, and then you raise the taxes to the people who live there and live more decentable. Unfortunately, I used to live in Greenbrook, and I paid, the more money that I paid a couple years ago, that was $60 a month. Of course, it's a house. It's different. But at least I have the streets visible. And if I have my house, in the front of the house, something wrong, they give me a ticket. And it's okay. So why they don't do something to be more presentable for our community? I mean, we don't make 100,000 a year, we don't live there. If we do that money, we should not live there. But we have the reason to live more presentable, either by you taxes or by the association, or between. And question, why the association you can be deductible?
Why the association
It's not deductible tax.
is not tax deductible?
No,
Their dues are not tax deductible
no. Why?
because the IRS says they're not. It's a law.
I'm not a
It's a law.
tax expert.
Okay.
So ma'am, I want you to know that there's different taxing bodies,
Yeah,
and not
I
all the
understand
taxes
that
come
part.
from us as well.
Yeah.
So you prefer for us not to levy these taxes, to raise the taxes?
Of course not, the way
Raise-
the
Okay,
the
thank
way
you.
the subdivision looks.
No,
For
okay.
that, I moved to Chicago and pay
The,
rent.
On the issue of deductibility of what you pay, you know, you say, why can't I deduct it?
Yes, that, they
So-
say the
right,
association is
So,
not,
so the association dues
yes,
that you pay to the association
I
are
understand.
not deductible
I understand
on
that
an
part.
income tax return.
Okay, that's fine.
The SSA taxes that are paid might be deductible, but, you know, they changed the tax law. And the way they changed the tax law was, they increased all the standard deductions.
Okay,
So today, or not today, but let's say in 2022, if you're married, you get a $25,900 standard deduction. If you're single, you get a $12,950 standard deduction. If you're the head of household, you get a $19,400 standard deduction. You are allowed to deduct that amount of money from your taxes.
okay, I understand
But
that.
in order for you to subtract or deduct real estate taxes, your real estate taxes, together with your other deductions, would have to exceed those amounts because they are included as Schedule A deductions, and they are taken only if you can exceed for your deductions. For a married couple, $25,900. For a single filer, $12,950. I'm going to guess, but I don't know, and maybe others can tell me, most people who might live in Tanglewood and own their properties most likely would not be able to deduct that special service area tax on their income tax return because those deductions, together with their others, will not exceed that floor.
Beginning next year, right?
Beginning next year.
But our statement that we made is they're tax deductible.
They-
Up till now.
They're tax deductible
and they
if you're
were-
able to, because they exceed those amounts.
And they
No,
were since
Yeah.
2005.
One more question.
So it changes now next year.
For the
Okay,
city of
one more
Haverhill Park.
question, then we'll move
Yeah,
on.
for the city of the Haverhill Park. I don't have children, younger children anymore, but my grandkids going one. But I notice it's not enough police to check the neighborhood, because the neighborhoods had famous. Now it's a little bit better, Mr. I agree with him. It's a little bit better after 10 years ago. But I still don't see frequency of the police around in the kind of neighborhood we live.
The
And we
police
pay
chief,
tax.
the police chief heard you.
The what?
The police chief heard you.
Okay.
he's
So-
He heard
He's
me
sitting
like
right
10
here.
years ago.
And it's come to his attention, so thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Could I comment? I would say this, that many residents don't appreciate, or know, or understand or appreciate the fact that there are a lot of patrols with officers not in uniform that are going on that they're not aware of. So I just want to say that before the pandemic, when we were inviting everybody over to be a part of our annual meeting, when we'd ask the chief to give a report, I'd always make that a point. And how many non-uniform patrols? It's an astounding number. These people out here in force 24/7 protecting all of us. We need to recognize that.
Thank you, thank you. And I know the police department appreciates that. Okay, moving on,
I'd like the motion to close
the hearing.
yes. close.
Okay, I was just
Second.
going to ask if any board member had another question.
I second.
Thank you.
Questions of the board? Move to close. Do we have the second?
Yes,
Do we have a motion and a second?
yes.
Get back to my,
Want me to call?
Quite a lot of detail here, Mr. Slater.
And I'm assuming there's no one else that does want to speak, is that correct?
But,
Can I say something very, very briefly?
Did you speak already?
No.
no.
Oh.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I'll be very quick, I promise. I'm sorry.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Why don't you speak first and then sign in
Yeah,
after you get
I know.
through?
We know who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Makala Stokes. I'm the Neighborhood Revitalization Manager with DuPage Habitat for Humanity. I've been talking with residents for the last 3 years, and I'm not going to say one thing or another regarding the levy tax, but I would say a couple things to consider is, one, the severe amount of distrust between the neighborhood and the historical lack of simple, concise communication. And I think we heard today there's been a lot of confusion over what this matter is. And the fact of the matter is that everything that Mr. Slater addressed are in fact issues that the residents have claimed over and over again are issues. And this having a project that is managed by the village rather than the HOA, I think that's something that the residents can see from start to finish that's actually can be completed. I think they have been waiting for things to get done, and there's lots of reasons why, and there could be very valid reasons why they haven't been completed, but to be able to partner with the village in this way on issues that Habitat actually can't really support and help, but if I can help facilitate conversations and proactive and productive conversations around this, I really don't think there have been any based on everyone that I've talked to in Tanglewood. When I broke down the payment structure and what it would actually cost with a few residents, they got behind it. But until that happens, I don't think we can really get an accurate idea of where the residents really stand on this issue, because there is that level of distrust and there is that just negative bias, because this is simply coming from the HOA board and there has been that level of distrust. But these are in fact things that the residents have indicated are issues for many, many years. So I just wanted to say that.
I just want to say, you're volunteering to assist in the facilitation of good communication.
Yes.
And I do appreciate that. The revitalization initiative from Habitat has been outstanding. Our job is not done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I say our job because I really support the efforts of Habitat and the revitalization program. You're right in the middle of it, and you stepping up to say you're willing to assist the association, the village, and the homeowners, I think is paramount. A lot of what I heard was deferred maintenance, and if you don't have the money, you defer the maintenance. So, we gotta help the association move it along, and your ability to help communicate that is right on.
And the last thing, I think having a simple conversation of, hey, this is what you are getting, this is the project that the village is managing, these are all the things that are going into this project, this is the amount that you're paying. That's a very different conversation than saying we're having hundreds of thousands of dollars increased in a tax levy. You hear that very differently than saying, oh, you have $100 to get all of these things taken care of, or whatever the amount ends up being. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. We called the question?
Yes.
We had a second?
Yes.
This is on the,
Close the public hearing.
pardon me?
To close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing, yes.
Trustee Brigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for their time and energy. Presentations, I don't believe there are any. Do we have any?
No.
Okay, town hall session, those that signed up for the levy, so there's no one for town hall session. Village President's report. I am looking forward to Friday. Friday is our tree lighting ceremony. It'll be the first one in the future downtown. I might as well call it the downtown, but it's in the process of development. It should be quite outstanding. I appreciate the support of the Lions Club and the departments that are stepping up, the access to a Santa chair, the reindeer. Oh my goodness, this is going to be quite exciting. So I want to say I'm really looking forward to Friday, and that's quite exciting. The other than that, I appreciate everybody showing up tonight. So I move to approve by unanimous vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. 8A11, motion to pass an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2022 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the budget? Hearing none. Christie, call the
Yes.
roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes, I have questions.
Oh.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so, I want to again thank Remy, for providing us with the summary earlier. The summary did include, the infrastructure fee increase that we talked about from $12.50, excuse me, from $12.50 to $18.75, which is the $625 increase to fund the water main infrastructure program. So it included that, but I don't see anywhere in the packet where it talks about the exemptions that we talked about for certain populations within our community that might not be able to afford this increase. We had lengthy discussions about this in October, mainly those that might be at 200% of the federal poverty level, disabled veterans, those that just identify as low income. And so I see half of what we talked about, but I don't see the other half of what we talked about, what we have been talking about since October. And then we had another, myself, our village manager and our finance director had another meeting about this in November. And I would also just like to add that back in October, I made a motion and asked for, excuse me, an amendment to be made to our water and sewer ordinance as it currently stands, so that we could explore how we could essentially make sure that we provide an umbrella of support services to our residents, namely prohibiting these water shutoffs. And it is for these reasons that I have stated that I believe that we should table the budget and that we should pass the budget in 2 weeks' time so that we can pass the increase, but also pass the exemptions that we have been discussing since October.
So it was my if I may, Yasmin, if I may?
Yes,
Oh.
go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so it was my understanding, and you did ask for a workshop to review those additional items?
So just to clarify, sorry, Mayor, just to clarify, so I did not request the workshop. I believe it was Juliana that requested the workshop, but I did agree that, sure, we can have a workshop on this matter.
So it was my
So-
understanding that we get through the budget, and then we follow up, like the next meeting, with the workshop on that matter, so we can integrate that. Have that roundtable discussion.
No, that is not what I agreed to.
Okay.
A workshop on this matter would be very helpful, but I made very clear that I would not be voting for an increase to fees for our residents without some sort of exemptions. I said that in October, I said it in November, I'm now saying it in December, and so again, it appears that 50% of what we have discussed has made it to this agenda packet, but the other half, those that would protect our residents, from these increases that they might not be able to afford was not included in this packet. And so it is for that reason that I would like to table this budget and pass it in 2 weeks' time so that we can have an amendment that will include the exemptions that we have discussed time and time again. At this time,
Juliana?
I would like to make
Juliana?
a motion to table the budget and to vote on it in 2 weeks' time on December 16th. Will anyone second this motion?
Do you want to say something, Juliana, before we second? Because I'm-
So,
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
Juliana?
Go ahead, Juliana.
well, I think that, I don't know that are you okay with me speaking, Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the full board, I understand that trustee Bancole has made those comments. The full board, there was a motion and a second, and the motion the approved motion of the board was to hold a workshop, which is scheduled for next board meeting, the 16th, at 5:30. And then the motion continued that what was decided at that workshop would then go on a board agenda for approval. Also on the next agenda is an ordinance that would change the code to put in place the modification for the water infrastructure maintenance fee increase of the $6.25. Today's motion is to approve a budget. There's a lot of things in this budget that still need another action by the board to actually be put in place. So the discussion about, is there going to be an increase of $6.25 in actual approval, and who that applies to, our codes discuss and outline how those applications, how that is applied, and who pays and who doesn't is in there. There may be modifications that come out of the discussion at the workshop that modify those exemptions, but that will take place under a different discussion. This approval tonight is on the planning budget document, and if for some reason the board makes a decision that significantly affects the revenues that would be coming into the village. So remember already that there is a senior exemption. So the exemption for all the seniors, including the additional $6.25, are not part of the budget revenue projections that are in this budget. But if for some reason the board were to make modifications to those exemptions that had a significant impact on the budget revenues, then you do have the option of putting forth an amendment to the budget, or we as staff would make that adjustment to reduce the expenses accordingly.
I think that was my question, and you answered it, Juliana, just now. Currently, we have exemptions in place, and that is not going to be bothered by this increase at this point. I think because my perception was that everybody is going to get affected by this increase, but you're saying the exemptions that are in place are not going to be affected by this increase.
Correct. So there are current exemptions that are afforded in the Code of Ordinances now. So currently, those who are over 65 years old do not pay the infrastructure maintenance fee of $12, and they wouldn't pay the $6. If there were no change, there would not be the $6.
Is there
There's
something-
also, there are also other exemptions. So it used to be the circuit breaker program. Now it's called the service, benefit service program or whatever. Those who meet the requirements of that program also do not pay the $12 plus this additional $6. So those exemptions are in place now, and if no change were made to the board, to the code, those exemptions would stay in place. This budget has that all in it.
So that program, the second program that you mentioned, that includes the low income, that's where it's directing?
At
So
certain
what part-
levels that are outlined in that.
So
aligned
low
program.
income and seniors are covered already in there, that's what you're saying?
For those who meet the requirements of the service benefit program, those are already in this budget. And those are some of the things that we would like to, as staff, outline during the workshop, make sure everybody understands who's covered right now and how they're covered, and see whether, understand from the board the additional, if there are individuals that should be receiving
Can
that
I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So I understood that trustee Bancole requested, and it's actually written like that in her notes, motion by trustee Bancole on 10/21 and seconded by trustee Hussaini to amend the motion to enter into a workshop meeting to explore the possibility of prohibiting residential and tenant households from water shutoffs, leaving all commercial facilities without change, the water shutoff process and its procedure. So it wasn't exactly about exemptions. So that's where I was confused, because when I brought up the exemptions at the board meeting, I was told bring it up during our strategic planning team meetings. I brought it up there. I was told no, it belongs during the water discussion when I brought it up. So you feel a little bit confused and ping pong back and forth. So I understand where trustee Bancole is coming. But then I heard that there was going to be a workshop, and then I read our notes, and now I was worried that we had to stick with the motion only to talk about just shut-offs as all.
My understanding is the workshop, at least
everything?
from staff's perspective, is we've talked about water for 2 years now.
Yes, we have.
And some of you have been on the board. Now we have new members who would like to have discussions about water. And so they all interplay. And so our understanding is that the workshop would
Okay.
be to cover all of those issues.
So then my second question is, when we raise the water rate by $6.25, when does that become effective?
So we have, the budget reflects, as well as the ordinance that we will be bringing for consideration at the next board meeting, that takes effect January 1 with the new budget.
Will we be able, so then you're saying is that when we have a workshop,
But we need that approved. So if you don't approve something at the next meeting, it won't go to effect January 1.
no, but what I'm
because-
saying is, we have a workshop at our next one, December 16th. We'll be able to have an ordinance with these exemptions for all low income based on a certain criteria before January 1st. What I don't want is for January 1st to come and our folks are now that are already low income, now they're paying 18-something.
Assuming we agree to those
Wait,
changes.
so we will bring for, the plan is to bring forth an ordinance to put in place what this budget reflects. The board as a whole needs to make a decision about if there are different exemptions that are additional to or different in nature to what are in the ordinances now. When those are approved, that ordinance would then also indicate when it goes into effect. So it may say it goes into effect January 1, it may say it goes into effect February 1, it may say take place in January, but be retro.
So that's what I don't want. That's what I don't want. I want it to be nice and clear.
That's the problem. I think that is one of the main problems.
But this is a planning document, and it's going to change over the course of the entire year, and so, depending on what decisions you make. We need a planning document to start for January 1. We're required to pass a budget by the end of the year. We are not going to have all decisions made by the time we approve that budget.
Right, and that's why some things come to the board later on to amend the budget.
But I think what the frustration, at least for me, is that I've been talking about this since COVID. Since we were all on screens, say we need exemptions, we need exemptions. I feel like I got ping-ponged around and it never was brought up, it got ignored, et cetera.
At the next meeting, we'll have the data to make a decision.
From my we went back and listened to the tape, and I would, I'm not encouraging you to all relive your meetings. From this seat, you don't all say the same thing. different people have different opinions or how they would like to implement. And so I can't take direction from just one of you. I need to take direction through a vote of the village board. And so I'm hoping that we can have this workshop, have a discussion, and have the board then give direction and take a vote at a board meeting so that we can move forward, which is what happened a year ago, or a year and a half ago with a different board, and it wasn't a unanimous vote regarding water and shutoffs and all of that.
So if we put forth an ordinance in the future, we make it retroactive to January 1st?
That.
I don't
For
see
the-
why not.
We could, yeah.
Bernie?
I don't know if that would be Bernie.
I want to make sure that we're not.
How exactly would that work? Would we
A credit.
refund our residents?
A credit, maybe?
If I'm understanding this correctly, the only way that there could be an increase in the fee, I don't think it's a rate, in the fee that is being asked for, the $6 and so many cents increase in the fee, is not by what you're doing tonight.
Correct.
It would be by an ordinance that would be subsequently passed by the village board. That ordinance, the manager says, her plan is to have an effective date of January 1. Following your meeting, following your workshop meeting, I presume that ordinance would be on your regular meeting agenda, and the board could do whatever they wanted with that ordinance. They could pass it, they could amend it, they could take it up in next year. As far as making fees retroactive, I imagine you could do it, but I think it would cause problems because they set up their billing system in advance of sending out the bills. And so they would then have to make adjustments later on to their billing system, take one for one thing to add the additional retroactive fees. And I think you'll also find that taxpayers or users of facilities of the village or purchasers of its water don't appreciate retroactive fees.
Well, I don't think
So I don't think it's a realistic thing.
I don't think Trustee what I'm hearing Trustee Bancole say, and maybe correct me, it's not as much if we were going to increase it. We would just increase it going forward whenever the ordinance was passed. I think the question is if there's a reduction for some residents in that fee because they're added to the exemption, would that be retroactive to their account?
Again, the board could do that.
That's what I think the
Yeah, the
question
board
is.
could do that, but then that would place, I'm just saying, a burden on the finance department to find them all, deal with them all, and work
Right,
out
but
that refund system.
But if somebody applies for the reduction later in the year, it wouldn't be retro to January 1st.
It would be whatever the board said it was.
Whatever the ordinance is.
Whatever the board said it was. So if you wanted to make it retroactive, you could.
Well, I'm just saying that if someone in June decided, or that's like, hey, I got some issues, I need to apply for an exemption, we're not gonna retro that back
No, it
in
would
January.
become effective at the time. And so especially if
Right.
we're talking about basing it on a certain criteria based on, is there a SNAP, is there a Medicaid card, or are you a senior, et cetera. So based on when they apply for it and they prove the necessity of that. My issue is that what if I am all of those things and I want to start at January 1st, but there is no,
Right, so that,
Ordinance
we're
for me
gonna
there.
review the exemptions, and if we need to add any exemptions, we could do it on the 16th when we have a workshop.
So just to clarify, we can't raise the fees until the ordinance goes through.
You may not raise or reduce the fees, change the fees unless an ordinance is
Passed by the board.
So it's our intent, the next meeting, to have that dialogue.
So the purpose then of the workshop is to define exactly what that's going to look like, what this ordinance, whether there will be an ordinance, and if there is an ordinance, what it's going to look like that will affect the fee, the water fees, who's affected by it, and who's exempted, and that will be. So after we have accomplished that, when will that ordinance then come before the board for a vote?
There will be so there's been several things related to water over the years, and then more recently discussed by either one or more elected officials. So on the agenda next week, or in 2 weeks, will be an ordinance that increases the $12.50, the rate of $12.50 to $18.75. What Bernie has said is, if based on what happens at the workshop discussion, the board wants to modify the exemptions of who that applies to, they can make an amendment at that time. Or they could choose not to have that ordinance, or table that ordinance at that time. It just won't be effective January 1 unless there's a retroactive clause in it. But in addition to that, I've also heard some trustees want to revisit the shut-off discussion on who's shut off and when. I've also heard requests by some about late fees and applying those, and so I think the board as a whole during a workshop session needs to make a determination whether you're going to change some of those, because those are revenues as well. And we've made some estimates in this budget. It's been COVID, so those have been, it's fluctuated over this last year too.
So correct me if I'm wrong, so a vote tonight to approve this overall budget, but there would still be a vote at the next meeting to address the ordinance that deals with the increase. Correct. So the vote
Correct.
tonight, there are two separate.
They're two separate things, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to pass the levy,
Okay.
the budget, and the ordinance will take care of
Okay.
the other. And we are planning to do that at the next meeting.
And our plan for the workshop is to provide the board with all of the information that some of you have had over the years. We sat with Trustee Bancoli and tried to relay some of that history individually, one-on-one, but to provide that information to the full board, as well as try to give you some additional information about who's covered by the current exemptions.
Can I then ask my colleague, Trustee Bancoli, if she's satisfied with the fact that we will be voting on this ordinance at our next meeting, if she would withdraw her motion from the floor?
There is no motion. There's only, there's a motion, but there's no second.
There was no
So
second.
there's nothing to withdraw.
Okay.
So it's the motion, what's before us is the motion to pass the, where am I? Number
A11.
11. Motion to pass the ordinance adopting the fiscal year budget in lieu of passage of appropriation.
Finish speaking?
Go
Can
ahead.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Trustee Bancoli.
Mayor?
Is that,
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
yes,
Yeah, I just wanted to respond, so thank you, Trustee Porter. So just a couple things. I just want to make this fast. Thank you, Juliana, for providing this additional information about your plans for our workshop. In the future, I would ask that you maybe provide this information at an earlier date, or maybe just not only at our board meetings, because all this information about what your plans for the workshop, that this is new to me. All the specifics that you want to talk about, which are for the workshop that is, I see on my calendar, was just inserted into our calendars today. It's all new, and so in the spirit of like open communication, I would really appreciate it if we could be provided this information, you know, just so we have time to just go over things that are connected to our budget. I also just really quickly want to say that, you know, we've talked about retroactive, but realistically, you know, Remy, is that something that we can even do? You know, wouldn't it make more sense to just have something and just do it all at the same time? Do we really have the manpower to
Yes.
create a whole new system?
Yes,
to
Bean?
be
Yes.
giving things?
Trustee Bancole,
And
this
the
is,
last thing I wanted to say, pardon?
I'm sorry, it's Lisa Gutierrez. We could, that's why we agreed that at that time when that ordinance comes up, we can then decide what we want to do with it. If we wanted to say, no, now it's the time to insert these exemptions and we want them this way, et cetera. And that's why we want the workshop before, so that we could be ready for that ordinance.
So we'll
Okay,
be smarter
thank you.
about the ordinance that we do pass.
And
There's a lot of data that we do not have.
right, and that's the other thing. Some of my board members that I've talked to would like to see more data on this too.
All right, with
Okay.
that, I'd like to call the question.
I'm with you. 8A11, motion to pass an ordinance adopting a fiscal year 2022 budget in lieu of passage of an appropriation ordinance. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
No.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 8A12, motion to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the corporate and municipal purposes of the Village of Hanover Park, a home rule municipality, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois, for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. 8A13, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, in and for the Village of Hanover Park, Special Service Area Number 3, Astor Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion? Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
And Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Motion passes.
8A14, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, in and for the Village of Hanover Park, Special Service Area Number 4, Mark Thomas and Leslie Lane.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
And Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 8A15, move to pass an ordinance authorizing the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, in and for the Village of Hanover Park, Special Service Area Number 5, Greenbrook, Tanglewood.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
This is for the lower rate increase, correct?
Correct.
Not the 1.7.
The one we just had the public hearing.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes, there was a request to hit the full increase. This is for the half. Discussion? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
No.
Trustee Porter?
No.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
No.
Mayor?
What's your
Yes.
vote?
3-3.
3-3?
Mayor?
I vote yes.
Motion passes.
8A16, move to pass an ordinance authorizing a third amendment to the fiscal year 2021 budget of the Village of Hanover Park, a two-thirds vote of the corporate authority is required.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Hearing no discussion, Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Perigi?
Yes.
Mayor Craig?
Thank you. Oh, yes.
Yes. Motion passes.
I'm moving on, yeah.
You're welcome.
There you go. Very good.
Long day.
8817, move to approve warrant 1202,
And
2021.
16 was by a two-thirds vote?
Yes.
Correct.
Did the mayor vote?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, good, thanks.
Move to approve the warrant 1202, 2021, in the amount of $349,152.35.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none, Christie, call a vote.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Perigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 8818, move to approve warrant paid in advance, 10/30/2021 through 11/19/2021, in the amount of $434,952.81.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions on the warrant? Hearing none. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Perigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Village managers report. Juliana?
No report, Mayor.
Thank you. Village clerk's report?
Just excited for our tree lighting tomorrow, and then also just want to let everybody know that we do have our holiday decorating contest out, so just remember to tell your residents that have great holiday decorations to sign up online.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And the reindeer are coming?
They're coming.
Oh, my God.
Very good. Corporation Council report?
No report, thank you.
Trustee reports. Lisa?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes, I just want to start by saying that regardless of what has been stated here, I do believe that our board members and our mayor, who's been here for so many years, do have their finger on the pulse of our community. And so I know that someone said something to the contrary, and I do not believe that is true. I want to remind folks that on December 6th, there's no 66, December 6th, it's a long day. December 6th, the Illinois Rental Assistance Program Round 2 is in effect. And there's also an area there for utility assistance, and you can sign up online. It's very easy. I want to thank Lorenzo, my fellow elf, for the help with the Big Guys Chair. And I attended the DEI meeting for Schaumburg Township. We're a working group, and they are looking at transportation. So I'm very happy about that as well. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Porter?
Just want to say I'm looking forward to the hard work that you put into our tree lighting
Yes.
ceremony, to our village clerk, and just congratulate you in advance.
Thank you.
For all your efforts, and I'm sure it's going to be a very enjoyable evening. I'm sad to have to express my condolences for the families in Michigan that were involved in the school shooting that occurred up there. Young man got a hold of a gun that was legally purchased by his dad just a week before, and went in, and 4 lives have been lost and scores of others have been injured. Just another example of just the rampant epidemic of gun violence in our country. And I pray to God that we're not adding to that with our recent additions to our business community. And with that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Trustee Porter, and I agree with you. Trustee Kemper?
Yeah, and in relating to what Trustee Porter said, mental illness does have a part to play in a lot of the gun violence that's happened, and that's an issue that unfortunately is harder to deal with, unfortunately, than gun laws. But with that, I got a couple meetings coming up. I believe we have a Sister Cities meeting coming up, and a dinner. We've got a Veterans meeting coming up this Saturday, Looking forward to that. And I'd like to wish our attorney, Bernie Paul, happy Hanukkah, and
Thank
all
you.
of our Jewish friends and neighbors a happy Hanukkah.
Day
And-
2, right?
And with that,
God, I'm getting better.
that's my report.
Thank you, trustee Kemper. Trustee Bancole?
Yes, just want to, again, thank the residents that came out tonight to voice their concerns about SSA 5, those that submitted comments, also voicing their thoughts and concerns. I'm not sure who it was, but someone made the comment that, there's a lack of distrust and that simple communication is needed. And so I will commit to doubling down on my efforts to make sure that the residents of the Greenbrook and Tanglewood area feel like they have lines of open communication between myself or anyone else that represents our village. Just wanted to quickly thank Mission Church and also the Basket Brigade of Suburban Chicago. I was able to attend 2 of their events in the past few weeks. They've done a lot to support Hanover Park families, and so I thank them for their efforts. And I too also wanted to wish those that celebrate a happy Hanukkah and a happy holidays as well. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Prigge?
So, Troop 398 is holding their final meeting together as Troop 398. Several troops are banding together because of low participation, and that it's going to be, I think, 4 or 5 different troops all combining together. But they will still be attending the tree lighting and all the other things that Troop 398 has historically done. They will continue that. Other than that, that's it.
And I'm sorry to hear that, having been a scoutmaster there for over 10 years. And I understand that, there's been issues with scouting. They've now sold the camp that I worked at as
they sold Napa
in
One.
seventh grade. I put in all those trees, pine trees, and to come back 20 years later with my son to see the results, it's really a sad thing to hear. And
Yeah, it's across the board. It's not just.
yeah, I know. Just had to make that comment. Trustee Husani?
No report.
Thank you. No executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigge?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. And Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Thank you for
The
staying.
meeting now closes at 9:28.
Yes.
Go to my office.
No problem.